going to tell you a story, and it's not going to be neat or easy to follow. It's going to take 10 parts, and you're going to need to pay attention. Did I say that already? Oh, and there may be a hint of a cycle. Welcome to the Aurora Wasteland Lifecycle. Episode 2. I think I've stumbled across something big, something I need to tell the world about. Not sure how to do so because I don't know if I fully understand it. It's bigger than everything, so I'm going to need you to pay attention, read between the lines, and come up with your own conclusions because I'm not going to lay it out for you. I've discovered 10 posts in the Aurora Wasteland that when laid together tell a story. A story that is going to change the world. So pay attention. I think I said that already. But it's true. Pay attention and think. Think outside the box. As well, you'll see. Maybe. Archived Aurora Wasteland post number 2. No original case number given. This email was received by the Aurora Wasteland, and while the Aurora Wasteland doesn't seem to be its intended recipient, the email was posted and shared with the community. I am a monitor, not like the computer screen, but like the person who watches others. It's kind of my job. Well, not kind of, it is my job. I'm not used to writing like this. I guess I'm kind of nervous. I've never made a recommendation like this. I have a list of questions I'm supposed to fill in, but that makes me nervous. So I'm just going to kind of use them as a guide and do my best, I guess, to get all the information out that is needed. This is about candidate 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42, who, for ease of reference, I'm going to refer to as the candidate from now on, because he is, in my opinion, rather exceptional. Which is why I'm submitting this application for him. Maybe this would be easier if I went back to the beginning. I'm a monitor. I think I said that already, but whatever. It's my job to watch people. I like my job. It's easy. I just watch my assigned candidates every day. It's really a rather cushy job. No desks or nothing, just a large room full of chairs and beds to lay in while I watch my candidates from my assigned tablet. Most days I sit by myself. Well, that's a lie. Every day I sit by myself. None of my candidates ever achieve much. They never get the positions I apply for them. I'm starting to think I'm being given the less good candidates. And I think my coworkers are afraid of catching some bad candidate disease from me. Or it's what I like to tell myself because I couldn't handle them not really liking my personality. Anyways, I'm off topic. The candidate came in like every other candidate on New Candidate Day. I'm given 10 new people to watch for the year. They are people with mild intelligence but high loyalty. Basically, people dumb enough to think they are the smartest person in the room. Every day, I pick the same place to sit and watch my 10 candidates. Every day, I work to mold them. This part can be confusing. The candidates are placed in a white room. It's small, like the size of a large vehicle. The walls, the floor, the ceiling are made of a thin white fabric that lets a small amount of light through. It's thin, but very unbreakable. Each small room the candidates are in is part of a large structure. The small rooms move around the big room, intermixing with other rooms from other candidates, from other monitors. There are thousands of small rooms mixed together, some on top of others. Each corner of the large room has a different, I'm not sure what to call it, frequency, signal, radiation, I don't know. I'm not a question person. I just do my job. Anyway, the 4 corners affect each candidate different. Too close to a certain corner and their heads will explode. Too far from another and they will constantly void their bowels. Either way, it's a precise game that leads to a lot of candidates dying. At least my candidates. Maybe I'm not good at my job. Anyway, every day their little room moves around the larger room. It's designed to break them down to figure out who they really are and what they should be applying for. It's very scientific. Did I mention they all die nightly? Somehow? I probably should have mentioned that before. Yep, every night they die in their little white rooms. There is actually a daily top 10 list that is published and distributed. I love watching it. Mine never make the list. I thought one of mine did once, but it turns out I was watching the wrong candidate the whole time. Very embarrassing. Did I mention Freddy? God, he is so dreamy. I try to sit by him every day, or as close as I can. He always sits in the same spot, which is why I do too. He has these arms and a butt that I would love to, too personal. I like Freddy. Not sure he's into other boys like myself. Well, probably not like myself, but, you know, cool boys. back to the candidates, we're molding them, trying to make them fit a narrative that will be posted as a position at the end of the cycle. We need to find out if they will be able to play out the narrative as needed. For whatever reason, I'm never given why. I mentioned that they die every night, right? Well, they do. And they come back differently. Their personalities are altered by being in the rooms. Their form is irrelevant. They die and are reborn. We keep their bodies the same here for ease of watching. But we could change them to anything. Technically, all the candidates die on the first night, and we're just watching different copies of them every day. I don't like to think about that because it weirds me out. So anyways, back to the candidate, because I forgot this wasn't about me. I don't know his real name. I'm never given it. Just the string of numbers, which is odd because most of the time the candidate number also includes letters from a variety of languages. Maybe they just used numbers for me now, so that I don't get confused. Sorry, almost forgot about not talking about myself again. I noticed that the candidate had something with him on his first day. Everyone comes in wearing the same thing. Small, white, tight underwear. No other clothing. Which is great for all the monitors who are into girls. I'm not. Boobs are kinda cool, but don't get me started on their other parts. They are very confusing. Thank goodness I like boys. So simple. Give me a nice hard... Ooh, sorry, talking about myself again. I do need to not do that. So, the candidate, he came in wearing white underwear like everybody else, but I noticed on the first day he had a small piece of paper stuffed in his nethers. He took it out frequently to look at it, then tucked it back in down there. I'd never witnessed anyone bring anything in before. I figured it was a new rule change, but I asked my boss and he said it wasn't a new rule, and that I should get my head out of my butthole, which wasn't nice, but only intrigued me more. I made sure that the candidate died that night in a fashion that would preserve the paper. I didn't want any blood, vomit, or fecal matter getting on it. So I just gave him the gas that makes your brain turn to liquid. It's painful, extremely from the sounds I've heard, but it kept the picture in his underwear safe. That's a strange sentence. Not sure I'll be putting it in the application, but oh well. Anyway, after he died, I went into the room to collect the paper, which was surprisingly easy to do. No security on the room at all. It made me wonder if anyone had ever done it before. I took the paper home with me that night and opened it for the first time when I was safely locked away at home. I unfolded it to find that it wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a photograph. I'd heard of these before, but never seen one. All my pictures are digital. I can view them on my screens. It was both strange and interesting to hold it. Actually, it looked like someone had taken a picture of a child's drawing of his family, like a memory of a memory. Sort of what I do with the candidates, peeling them back to what I need them to be. As I laid in the bed, I started to feel strange about it. It felt like I'd taken something from him, that one of my candidates would wake up and not have the item they were obviously so attached to. I laid awake all night thinking about it, wondering how he brought it in with him in the first place, what it meant to him, why he cared about it. Frustrated that I couldn't sleep, I checked my watch. In less than an hour, my candidates would be given bodies again, and then uploaded to them. Without overthinking it, which is the way I do most things, I scanned the picture into the candidate's file and added it as a tattoo to his arm. Comfortable that he and the image would be reunited, I finally got to sleep. I did not feel comfortable about it the next morning. The candidate was acting erratic. He was pounding his fists into the wall, and he'd cut a circle around the tattoo on his forearm with his fingernails. There was a lot of blood all over the floor. I was called into my supervisor's office that morning. He yelled at me a lot. It was all about the candidate and the tattoo. I guess what I did was bad. At least I left with that impression. I was told to remove the tattoo that night. But here is where things get, well, interesting. Freddie stopped by to see me. He said that he found what I did to my candidate, the candidate, interesting, and that he asked me if I wanted to have dinner. I blabbered out a yes and confirmed it was a date. It was. Did I mention that Freddie is so dreamy because he is? By late afternoon, I could think of nothing else other than my date. When I checked in on the candidate, he was crying and holding his arm. I felt like I could almost see the memory he had connected to it. There was an anger linked to it. Anger was bad. Controlled anger was good. Really good. I wondered if I could use it to control the candidate. Most of my candidates end up just being sad. No matter what I did, he was different. Controlled anger was rare, extremely. I set the tattoo to remain and added it to his permanent build, except I faded it slightly and inched the candidate's room closer to a corner that would enhance his anger. Feed it, which only works if the candidates already have anger in them. I'd never done this before. It was rather exciting. At dinner, I told Freddy all about it. Turns out, I'm his type. My bed can attest to this. The next morning, the candidate was mad. At least that's what his metrics told me. But on the outside, he seemed controlled. No blood anywhere. He just stared at his faded tattoo. My supervisor called me into his office again. He patted me on the back for how I'd handled the candidate. So much so that he wanted me to give a talk about it at the next staff meeting. I gave the candidate a special death that night. I had his tattoo turn to spiders, crawl inside him, and eat his organs. A classic. Very cinematic, if I do say so myself. The next morning, the candidate was in the daily top 10 for his death. I guess others liked it too. For the next 180 days, I faded and brightened the tattoo while moving the candidate's white room within the larger room and making sure he died painfully each night. It seemed to help control him, almost like he used it as penance for something. It was great. Lava in the veins, shitting your heart out, and my new favorite, the insertion of a tiny ticking clock somewhere in your body that gets louder and louder until you dig it out. Spoilers, it's always someplace not good. Freddy continued to take me to dinner and bed me. Best 180 days of my life. Work was great, life was great. But such things aren't meant to be. I went into work on day 181. The candidate was no longer in my list. He'd been reassigned to Freddy, who claimed I'd been abusing and manipulating him to get what I want. My boss gave the candidate to Freddy and demoted me to manage the obvious failure candidates, the ones that killed themselves as soon as they woke up. I continued to watch the candidate even though he was under Freddy now, most of the time while crying to myself at night. Freddy tried to introduce a love interest for the candidate, which never ended well for the love interest. The candidate either ignored them or murdered them each time. Even when Freddy brought in the biggest of boobs, the candidate still ignored them. Not sure how he did it. It was hard for even me to ignore them. At day 359, which is today, the positions were released. The candidate is a perfect match for the highest rated job, which is why I'm writing this. I know I'm not his monitor anymore, but he deserves the job. I can tell he's still trying to remember something. I'm glad I imprinted the tattoo on his permanent data file. It seems to help him. I know his memory will be totally wiped after this, but I think it will help him stay angry. I sent him a gift today. The candidate, that is. Just a piece of paper and a pencil, with a note telling him to write down what he could remember. I want to add it to his file after he's done. Or maybe I'll send it to that stupid Aurora Wasteland site. I know how much we all love trolling them. But knowing me, I'd get the story and this mixed up and send the wrong one to them. Only kidding, of course. That could never happen. Did you see it? The start of the story. Remember everything because you're going to need it. I can't lay it out for you because I'm not sure I understand it. Still, the message, the idea is big. And well, you'll see. Hey, my name is Vaughn Ashby. I wrote this. If you liked what you heard, head on over to VaughnAshby.com/free and pick up a free novel or a bunch of other free stuff. Go explore the Aurora Wasteland yourself at AuroraWasteland.com. Don't forget to check out the Stories from the Wasteland podcast and search for Vaughn Ashby on YouTube for video versions and other exciting videos. Thanks for listening.